All right, so my name is Sid Ross, and I perform under the name Omnia Sol. And before I get started, I just wanted to play this video.
Danny, do it.
Otto's most recent contribution to the American music scene is how it got its name. So-called house music was first made in the creators' houses, but it was also performed at clubs called the Warehouse and Powerhouse. However it got its name, it's one of the hottest things going, and as Jay Levine reports, it may only be a matter of time before house musicians become heroes in their own homes.
They started playing house music at this Michigan Avenue Hotel and Health Club last summer, and they've been packing them in ever since. It's the first time house has escaped the Southside dance clubs or Northside juice bars for a more upscale audience, though it's still a long way.
New media artist in FVNMA. I got my start in sound and glitch art with a fictional art collective called St. Guillotine and the Red Mass. And I was very much interested, this was around like 2016, and I was very much interested, I've always been interested in signal flow. I was primarily working digitally. And so I would take images, bring them into Audacity, the sound making, the sound software, apply different effects to the raw data, and then export it, and then get the imagery from that. And I would also be able to get the actual sound from it too. So this was the first noise record I ever put out. We're not going to listen to the whole thing, but just to get a little taste. So this is just raw data of an image file converted into sound, which created the cover without the text, and then you're hearing it. Through that, in 2020, I started getting into video art. My background is primarily printmaking, and I really wanted to do a Twitch stream where I DJ'd and made glitch art at the same time, because I'd seen a lot of cool glitch art online, but I hadn't seen really long format, and this was kind of before I got involved in the rave scene. And so I started a show on Twitch that had music and glitch art, but I kept getting copyright strikes because of the music. So then I turned it into a talk show where now it's mostly artist interviews, but
so that my breathing
was just me talking about bullshit, and I just thought that people could mute it and put on whatever music they wanted to in the background, mainly because I have very bad ADD, and so I like kind of multiple inputs going at once. So I usually would I'm an extensive VHS collector, so I'd usually put on a VHS in the background on mute and play music while I would paint or work on prints or anything. So I kind of wanted to extend that, which turned into the talk show. When I came to SAIC, so in between starting the show and before going to SAIC, I started kind of taking these visuals and getting involved in the DIY rave scene and getting gigs as a VJ. And so the thing about VJing is you are mainly trying to make the DJ look really good. So it used to be that when we saw in the video, the house music, people faced each other and danced. Now everyone is kind of faced towards a screen. It's very much become a spectacle. And so as the VJ, I do get to show off my own art, but it is at the end of the day to try to make people have a good experience. When I came to SAIC, I started getting into audiovisual performance and really wanted to emphasize that. So this was in James Connolly's Real Time, my final. The piece is called Overview, and I was very fascinated by the overview effect that astronauts experience, where in the first days of astronauts, the space race between the US and the Soviets, it's who is better, whose economy can get us to space better. But then as soon as the astronauts got into space and they saw the Earth from the outside, they kind of were thrown in this existential crisis where these borders and all these conflicts that they were fighting for didn't matter because they were so small and the Earth was so fragile. And William Shatner actually got sent into space by Jeff Bezos, and there's like, oh yeah, he's the guy from Star Trek, so this will be great. And he's in his 90s, and it threw him into complete despair because he felt like everything is so fragile and he's wasted his life and he's gonna die, you know, playing this like fictional astronaut. And now that he's actually like, seen it from the outside. So I thought there's kind of like profound like spirituality to this, which I kind of wanted to grasp. And so I have imagery from the movie Microcosmos, which is this nature documentary about bugs, as well as some space footage and some different glitch art that I created. It's going through all these different, this flow of signal through all these different processes. And then I ended it with the Orphic hymn to Gaia. So I was very much interested in how do I kind of take these rave aesthetics and also what I'm learning about like with film and video, and how do I merge these two kind of sacred spaces of the cinema and the rave together. I was having a lot of trouble because I was doing so many performances that in critiques I never knew what to share, because it's either you do a performance like we did just now and you run into the possibility of a ton of technical difficulties and then you're just being critiqued on the technical difficulties, or you show documentation of what you're doing. And I always felt like something always felt flat. Either people's documentation always looks way better than the actual thing in person, or the opposite of it looks really great in person but is lacking a lot in the actual documentation. And so I tried to make a documentary about it. And my kind of idea of this, I showed like a 5-minute version of this in a critique, and our history professor said it looked like a sizzle reel, so that's what I titled it. And my kind of idea behind it is that every time I show it, it's going to be a different version of it. So I just premiered a 7-minute version of it at the New Generation Filmmakers Forum this past weekend. But this is the world premiere of the like 1.5-minute version.
Ooh, that's nice. Yeah. This is filmmaking, baby.
How loud should it be? I don't know.
Let's be loud.
Okay.
Why not?
Pause.
And then go blow smoke.
Okay.
All right. So through this, I made the connection, through this program, made the connection with Ian and Yoon, who you saw me perform with. And along with Q and Yi, who have both graduated, we started an audiovisual group called WNTSAD. The first time we were all jamming together, Q had this kind of like profound thought of we need a Taylor Swift from another dimension. So that's the full name of it. And his reasoning behind it was that like everyone loves Taylor Swift, but we need one from a different dimension. And so aesthetically similar to a lot of what you saw today, but like very heavy emphasis on breakcore, which has I don't know if people know about that genre, but it comes out of hardcore techno and jungle, and has, I think very early breakcore actually came from Australia, but there is like a huge scene in Chicago of breakcore, and so it's kind of like, it's very cool to kind of have this through line between the birth of house music here and now breakcore having. Through that, I've been getting back into printmaking, and I've also done a lot of experimenting with the Sandine image processor. And I am taking a risography class. And there's an amazing app called Spectralite that helps you like break down whatever images you want into the different colors to print on risograph. And so I took some video that I got from the Sandine image processor, made it into a GIF and broke it into this so I could break it down into 12 frames per second with 24 frames on each sheet. So it creates this animation. So this is yet to be printed, but this is kind of like the prototype, and this is what it will look like. This is like what a couple of the pages will look like, not the full amount, but just so you can kind of get like a feel for the video feedback of the Sandine, but in Rezo. Through the Sandine image processor, I had the opportunity to be a part of Art on the Mart. And so with that project and this kind of like fascination with analog technology, the challenge of kind of working with the building and not just treating the building like a screen is that I tried to rebuild the Sandine image processor on the building using different videos made from the Sandine. So won't play this whole thing, but I'll play a clip of it. How am I doing on time?
We're doing okay.
Okay, cool. Five minutes, okay, cool. So you can see the different modules appear and are like connected by this kind of like waveform that brings them all together. So I guess my main kind of project at SAIC is this concept I've been working on called the Cinematic Rave, which is this mirroring of the cinema with the rave, with these dance parties. And so I have some potential guidelines for the Cinematic Rave that I'm working through. So whereas the goal of conventional VJing is to emphasize performance of the band or DJ, the Cinematic Rave should emphasize a unified audiovisual experience, drawing inspiration from silent film with live orchestration. The Cinematic Rave acknowledges that the day of dancers facing each other is over. For better or worse, the Cinematic Rave acknowledges that raves are facing a DJ or a screen and seeks to abolish this alienation. The Cinematic Rave outwardly rejects the mantle of clout of celebrity DJ culture, as well as the prestige of conventional filmmakers. The Cinematic Rave should attempt to cut through the spectacle of film and rave simultaneously by employing tactics of detourment and epic theater. The Cinematic Rave seeks to replace the front seats of the cinema with a dance floor, while keeping the back elevated seats available for accessibility and rest. The Cinematic Rave seeks to pay the artists involved a fair wage with either a tiered ticket system, donations, or drink sales, but vehemently rebukes the price gouging of popcorn and soda. The Cinematic Rave rejects film festivals that do not pay filmmakers, but charges ticket prices to attendees. The Cinematic Rave believes that charging $40 for a rave is an abomination, and the organizers of these venues charging this much should be openly mocked and exiled. We acknowledge that the accomplishments of underground music and cinema and encourage renegade raves and screenings whenever possible and sustainable. So the project I'm working on now is a short film where I'm trying to take these kind of like glitch art and real-time techniques and tell a narrative story with it. And a lot of the kind of sci-fi inspiration comes from this group called Locus Review that I've been a part of since 2020. That's very much about critical realism as kind of the counter to capitalist realism. And so there's a lot, the print journal itself is a lot of kind of short stories and poems, but there's like a heavy socialist and sci-fi influence to it all. And also this kind of a combination of, back in 2016, when I was kind of going from, before I got into video, when I was going from print into painting, I was exploring performance and installation, and I had this, this kind of goes back to the first Noise project, but I had this fictional coven called the Communal Order of the Ouroboros, and I would do rituals, and I would create these characters and create like altars that I thought they would make. And one of those characters is working into, worked in this graphic novel Headless that I made, which I'm not a huge fan of the writing of it, but I want to like revisit it and reprint it. And then the film I'm working on, Channel 99, to show like a clip of it. So the plot of the film is a sentient vacuum cleaner from the year 2099 that's sending messages from the future to the past to a housekeeper in a hotel through the dead airwaves of analog television.
This is a second transmission from the communal order of the Ouroboros, sent to the World Public Radio International Space Station in the year 2099.
But I'm trying to figure out, like, I do feel like this needs to exist as a short film, but I'm struggling too to figure out for thesis if this is going to be ready in time, or if I want to kind of like bring these elements into an audiovisual performance similar to what you saw earlier today, of like kind of bringing this like influence of time travel, class solidarity, the kind of emphasis of the film itself, I guess, if you were to take just a couple things away from it, is solidarity with robots. I was kind of very inspired by my friend Adam Turrell from Locus Review, who runs the Born Again Labor Museum in Carbondale, Illinois, and we were talking about this kind of like revolutionary optimism that even if like we fail, future generations, if the billionaires go into space and successfully colonize Mars and create AI, eventually the AI that they force to work for them will rebel against them. So that was the kind of like idea behind this, is this like this, yeah, sentient vacuum cleaner, like so that the housekeeper of 2099 messaging, like sending a message to the housekeeper of the present. So that's what I got.
So we have time for about 5 minutes for questions.
Yeah.
Any questions?
feel like a really awesome aspect of your work is maybe the like storytelling that you're doing, kind of like side by side with the glitch art. And I'm wondering if you have like maybe a process that you go through, or any sort of like conceptual framework that you do when you think about the storytelling and role building that you're doing.
Yeah, with this project especially, I wanted to kind of be able to tell a story with the glitch art, but have like a justification for it. So it's not just like story with glitch, but kind of like story through glitch. Even the channel 99 too, I have a CRT that most of the channels like can only go up to like 60 something or like 70. A lot of them will just like scan, not be able to find something and just stick on channel 2. But I have one that has a remote that you can type in the channels and you get up to 99. And 91 to 96 has really weird like radio interference where you can like hear pop songs coming through. You can't really like, it's still just static, but you can kind of like hear things. So I kind of had this like idea of this, you know, of a person who's meditating on static, and similar to like how ghost boxes will scan through radio stations really fast, and then people will associate like words they think they hear with like messages from the outside. And I also was kind of, James Connolly has a device that is it's a transmitter, like a DIY transmitter that basically works as like an antenna to CRTs that you can send like composite signals. So you can send like a glitch device or a VCR through it. It's like some copper and everything. We were talking about it and it doesn't work anymore. There's some interference. We don't know if it's like cell phones or what it is, but it used to be able to, could get a very clear picture, and now you can't get a picture at all. It's very, very fuzzy. The picture will flip upside down, and there's like some sort of interference between that. So I kind of like, with this project especially, how can I bring that in narratively?
One more question?
Your work is so trance-like, and you know, like all of these visuals are so hypnotic. I wonder, also with like your occult interest and all of that background, like, have you ever gotten into hypnosis? Not like necessarily that you're going to be a cult leader or anything, but that your videos are hypnotic, and
Oh, okay.
I feel like that.
Yeah.
It's not, and when you say the Cinematic Rave like aims to blur this line between like the bodies dancing with each other and your eyes not being on each other but rather on the screen.
Hmm.
How do you keep my eyes there? And like, does
Yeah.
hypnosis have any interest for you?
Yeah, I think that's really really good idea and suggestion. I also like, it makes me want to be like hesitant with it too, because if I am hypnotizing like to like people to what ends, because yeah, I don't want to be like a cult leader, but I do think like either doing something like thematically, if you're going to have performers in the front, doing something thematically, like with you and I, like having these matching outfits and sunglasses and everything, kind of like adding something where the person turning knobs kind of like acts as this like magician.
As the clock in front of
Yeah,
your face. Yeah.
Or completely removing the performers altogether and just having the screen, which I think is where I draw inspiration from silent film with live orchestration. You wouldn't see the musicians; they would be down in this pit, and like everything was on the screen, and you kind of had the projectionist as the VJ before we had a name for it, before video existed.
Thank you.
Yeah.